కరుణామయం నమామి చిన్మయం దేవం సద్గురుం బ్రహ్మవిద్వరం వసుదేవసుతం దేవం కంసచానూరమర్దనం దేవకీ పరమానందం కృష్ణం వందే జగద్గురుం త్వమేవ మాతా చ పితా త్వమేవ త్వమేవ బంధుశ్చ సఖా త్వమేవ త్వమేవ విద్యా ద్రవిడం త్వమేవ త్వమేవ సర్వం మమ దేవ దేవ త్వమేవ సర్వం గురుదేవ దేవ. Hari Om. We are doing the self-realization series, and in the last talk, after raising a lot of questions in the first talk of what is self-realization, we have essentially zeroed in the last talk what exactly involves in self-realization. It's a recognition of the non-dual Advaita in spite of any apparent duality, recognition of the substantive or adhishtanam or the essence that pervades all the divisions. The main important divisions are Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara. So that which is beyond these three divisions, and those are the Jagat, Jiva, Ishvara are only the adhyasa, superimposition on top of the Ishvara, on top of the Brahman, and recognition of the substantive, that means the adhara or adhisthana, that which pervades the Jiva, Jagat and Ishvara, is involved self-realization. And who has to realize? The one who does not know that he is Brahman has to realize. And why he does not know? That is what is called the Mula Avidya, the ignorance. From the point of Jiva, he has ignorance because he doesn't know that he is Brahman. From the point of Ishvara, he does not have ignorance that he knows that he is Brahman too. At the same time, he is taking the role of Ishvara. So he is called both the Sarvajnaha, means that includes everything he knows inside the creation because he has to create, and also beyond the creation, which is nothing but very substratum or adhishtanam of the universe, that means Aham Brahmasmi, also he knows. So he is Sarvavit and Sarvajnaha. Both are used in the Mundaka Upanishad, in the mantra 9 of the first chapter, where beautiful description of the Ishvara is given. And am I Ishvara? Am I God? No. God has its attributes different from Jiva. Jiva is Alpajnaha, Alpashaktiman, Alpavyapakaha. I mean, he only pervades a little bit and he knows only a little bit and so on. Whereas the Ishvara is Sarvajnaha, Sarvavitu. So no Advaitin will say the Jiva is Ishvara. So if somebody says, Advaitin says like that, obviously either he doesn't understand or he is misleading people only. So therefore, what is Advaitin say? Advaita means the Dvaita is negated. It's not monoism. It is negation of the apparent duality as a reality. So that is what is Advaita? Brahma Satyam. Brahman alone is real. That is Satyam, and that you are is this description or a teaching of the Vedanta. Aitadatma medagum sarvam tat satyam sa atma tattvamasi svetaketo. We exhaustively analyze the Mahavakyas of the statement. Now the question we have to know is, sir, everything looks good, logical, at the same time you say it's scriptural also, but how am I going to realize? And what should I do for me to recognize I am Brahman? I know I am Brahman, but I don't know that I am Brahman because I am taking myself what I am not. Even though the teaching says I am Brahman, Brahman means infinite, but I am taking myself because experientially I am finite, and the scripture says I am infinite. So there is a disparity between my experiences versus the reality as described by the scriptures. So Brahma Satyam, Brahman alone is real. So this world is real or not? So a lot of scripture, the Acharyas, different Acharyas, they say the world is real. Jagat Satyam, Jiva Satyam, Paramatma Satyam, all Satyams only. Then, which is Satyam? What is real? So it says, Brahma alone is Satyam. So how do you define Brahman alone is Satyam? The other Acharya says even Jiva Satyam, Jagat is Satyam because I experience, therefore it is real. Where Advaita says, because you experience, therefore it is not real. So Drishyatvad, I see it, therefore it is not real. Where other Acharya says, Drishyatvad, because you see it, therefore it is real. Because you don't say unreal. Therefore, what is the definition of a real? So real is that which can never be negated, which cannot be dismissed at any time. So, Brahma alone is Satyam because the one that can satisfy this requirement alone is real, that is the truth, because you can never dismiss Brahman. Why I cannot dismiss Brahman? Because Brahman is infinite. Infinite cannot be dismissed. Only finite things can be dismissed. So, Brahman cannot be dismissed. Also, I cannot be dismissed because I am a subject. I can dismiss everything else, but I cannot dismiss myself. Because in order for me to dismiss you can dismiss me, but for me to dismiss myself, I have to be there. So if I am not there, how can I dismiss? So subject can never be dismissed, Brahman cannot be dismissed, and there cannot be two things, and therefore Aham Brahmasmi also follows from that. So that which cannot be dismissed, called negation, it cannot be negated, and that alone is real. So how do we define reality? Trikala abhaditam satyam, that which cannot be negated by any three periods of time, that is past, present and future. That means it has to be eternal, and it has to be eternal, and it has to be infinite. So eternality and infinite, that means it is beyond the space and time. Desha kala, the parichinnam is not there, limitation is not there, and that is infinite, has to be ekam only. There cannot be two infinities, and that alone is Ananda. So Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam or Satchit Anandam is the indicatory definitions of Brahman, even though Brahman cannot be defined. All that is follows. So all the teaching is only for a jiva, and the teaching is, and the shastras are also within the transactional reality. So there was a criticism, is Vedanta real or not? According to you, only Brahman is alone real. So Vedanta cannot come under unreality. It cannot come under reality. So how can unreal scripture can point out the real Brahman? So if you accept that the Vedanta is going to be real science, then you have to accept the reality of the science. And if it is real, then you have a violation, because you have the Vedanta real and the Brahman is real. And therefore there are two reals, and one limits the other. Brahman cannot be Brahman. So your Brahman gets problem, or your science becomes a problem. All these questions are all looks logical, but illogicality comes because you cannot say that even this so-called ignorance is only in the transactional reality. From the absolute point, there is no reality, ignorance, no knowledge, no nothing, no Vedas also. From the point of Brahman, it is one without a second. So the Vedanta is a valid science for the person who is confused, and when he realizes Aham Brahmasmi, I include even Vedas also, knowledge also. So there is no point of knowledge different from the knower. Known cannot be there in Brahman. But until then it points out to the direction, so therefore it is a valid science in the transactional reality, because there is no ajnani from the point of absolute, it's only from the point of relative. There is ajnanam, ajnanam, all the divisions of jiva, jagat, ishvara are only on the transactional reality. All that has to be clearly understood. Otherwise, there are people who can confuse the issues and make a mess of it. And unless I am formally understanding the truth properly, it has to be scriptural and at the same time logical also. And all the statements about self-realization now we can resolve clearly. It's objectless awareness. People say self-realization means you go beyond the mind, and then what happens? It happens. What happens? Brahman realization occurs because it is objectless awareness. Statement of objectless awareness is true for Brahman because in Brahman there are no objects. It's pure consciousness. But at the same time, when you talk about realization, Brahman doesn't need to realize. Only a upahita chaitanyam, that means one who is enclosed in the mind as a reflected consciousness, he has a problem and he has to use the mind, and he has to go beyond the mind. And beyond the mind, using the mind only. Beyond the mind is what? Look at the mind more carefully to see what is there. That is beyond the mind. So in order to know what exactly is that, we will start discussing in terms of how to realize Brahman. And we see from now on, we will be addressing how to realize it, and what are the obstacles for realization, and how to overcome the realization. And is Vedanta is sufficient, or do we have to do something else? All that has to be clear, because even though people study Vedanta for years and years and years, if you ask them, have you realized? He says he has a doubt that he has not realized. How do you know he has not realized? Because the very fact that when he goes into the world, remember me mentioned, the world problems are affecting him. That means he feels he is affected by the ups and downs of the world. That means he is going through sukham, dukkham, all that. That means he is not happy as himself. The world will always be like that. But one should be knowing that I am unaffected by this. That's why Krishna says that all beings are in me. And the Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina mastani sarva bhutani. But also nachaham teshu avastitaha. Their avastas do not affect me. So it means their ups and downs will not affect me. The jnani is the one who recognizes that ups and downs of the world is not affecting him. Oh, he is suffering. He never suffers. But I am seeing his suffering. You are seeing his body suffering. Body is not him. He knows that the body is in him, not body is him. He may use the body for transactional purposes, and if the body has a problem, he says, my body is having a problem. My body is hungry. My body is restless. My body is sleepy. All body problems belong to the body, and as long as I am using the body, I had to use the problems with the body until the body drops. When the body drops, when its allotted prarabdha is over, because the body is a product of prarabdha karma, and therefore whatever the karma that brought in the body. So what happens when you realize? It says, when I have realized that aham brahmasmi. So what happened now? I am Brahman. That's a realization. So when he comes back again, occupies the body, who is occupying? Not the jiva anymore. Because aham jivasmi, I am a jiva was gone. Aham brahmasmi, I am Brahman. That understanding is clear. So when he comes back as though, then what does he say? It is the Brahman as though occupying the local body and operating the local body. Therefore, who is occupying? One who knows that aham brahmasmi. The one he is occupying now, acting like a jiva. And therefore, the body, mind and intellect may have a problem. But Brahman does not have any problem because Brahman is Brahman. So that's why we say Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo, Maheshwara. So he is the living God. The teacher is respected as a living God because he has realized Aham Brahmasmi. Sir, you just now told that I don't know whether somebody has realized or not. How do I know my Guru has realized? If I had to assume that my God, my teacher has realized, then only I can realize, because now I have a faith in the teaching of my teacher, because what he teaches is not only what he learned from his teachers, and also he established, and that's my belief, and therefore I can evolve in the process. Whether my teacher evolved or not is not the point. The point is, I have a faith in the teaching itself. That's how Shankara defines as a Shraddha. Faith is that Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya. Therefore, go to a teacher who knows the scriptures, Shastrasya, and also who has well established in that, and from that teacher, tad vijnanartham sa gurum eva abhigachet. So why should I go to teacher? Why don't I read myself? Because this is not an objective science that I can go and read like a physics in the library. It is about the subject, because I have already preconceived notions about myself, about the world, about Lord. And that preconceived notions have to go away, and only way to go away is proper methodology in order to script. Therefore, scripture itself says you have to go to a teacher. So tad vijnanartham. So gurum eva. Eva means you approach a teacher alone. Who is a teacher? Who himself studied this by approaching his teacher. How did his teacher learn? By approaching his teacher, and all the way to the Ishvara, the Lord. So Krishna says, I myself taught this to Vivaswan and so on and so forth in the 4th chapter of Gita. He says, I taught this knowledge to others before, and now I am teaching you. So therefore, the ultimate teacher is Jagat Guru, means he is the highest teacher, and that what is respect for the Lord himself is the highest teacher. And all the Guru Parampara, the teacher to the taught, teacher to the taught, teacher, all the way to my teacher. So I acknowledge the whole teaching itself coming from handed over, and that's what's called Shruti. Shruti means that he heard from his teacher, and his teacher heard from him, and all the way to from the Lord himself. All that is implied in the Vedanta. That's why Vedanta becomes scripture. So what should I do? Now, yes, I understood that I need to realize. What should I have to do? Go to your teacher. That's what the scripture says. But the teacher goes with a proper attitude, because I need to learn from the teacher. So I had to have a proper frame of mind to learn the particular knowledge. This is called prerequisites for any knowledge. So if I want to learn quantum mechanics, I have not learned any mechanics, but I want to learn quantum mechanics. So go to a teacher, the quantum mechanics teacher, say, please teach me quantum mechanics. He'll ask you, what have you learned so far? What have you, if I teach quantum mechanics involves alpha, beta, gamma, only letters only, can you grasp the meaning of that? So I should have a preparation in order to understand that quantum mechanics. So any prerequisites, so take any course you take in the university, they always specify prerequisites. I cannot take the calculus unless I have done some algebra and geometry and all that. Those are called prerequisites for taking that course. So Vedanta is also have a prerequisite. And what are the prerequisites for Vedanta? So Shankara defines it in terms of what is required for studying Vedanta. So in the Brahma Sutra it says Athato Brahma Jigyasa, then therefore inquire into the nature of Brahman. So scripture says then therefore, then means thereafter. Whereafter? Whereafter means thereafter, after acquiring the required qualifications. And what are those required qualifications? And each Acharya have defined what are those requirements for studying Vedanta. Then therefore inquire. After gaining the requisite qualifications, the mind is ready to inquire into the truth. Means it has a prerequisites. And what are the prerequisites? And Shankara defines for Advaita, Vedanta is essentially the Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi Shatka Sampatti and Mumukshutvam. These are the 4 prerequisites for entering into study of Vedanta. So, what are those prerequisites? It says Viveka, Vairagya, Samadhi Shatka Sampatti and the Mumukshutvam. So Viveka means what? A discriminative intellect is required in order to understand Vedanta. What kind of discriminative intellect? What is Viveka? Is defined as this, that what is real and what is unreal. Satyanata Mitunuki, the Nitya, Anitya, Vastu Viveka. What is eternal and what is ephemeral? You have to understand how to distinguish what is eternal and what is ephemeral. That means changing things. So whole world appears to be changing. That's why it's called Jagat. Jayate, Gachate, iti Jagat. That which continuously changing. Things keep on changing day in and day out. Everything is continuously changing. The sun is coming and sun is going. The moon is coming and the moon is going. Stars are coming, the seasons are coming, continuously changing and changing and changing. And generations have come and generations are going and the new generations will be coming. Nobody is going to stay here permanently. It's a continuous flux. And that is called Jagat. And if that is continuously changing and nityam, that is anityam, and that means not permanent, temporarily existing but not permanent. But if there is anityam, there has to be a substratum that has to be nityam. That's the law of conservation that we talked about. In the A plus B is equal to C plus D. If that is a changing, A plus B is converting into C plus B and C plus D, then the student has to balance the equation. What is the balancing? The mass here on this side has to be equal to mass there. There is a conservation of mass and conservation of energy, the internal energy of the system here and the internal energy of the system there, along with the reaction energy, all has to be balanced. And that is essentially called the balancing equation. The chemistry student struggles hard to balance it. But here we are talking about when the Jagat is continuously changing, there has to be Adhara, support from which the whole changes are occurring. And that Adhishtanam, Adhishtanam means the support for the changing things has to be changeless entity. So what is space, what is time, what is the matter, everything is changing. Then what is the changeless entity? Matter is changeless entity. But even that has to change. Matter changes into energy. Okay, matter, energy is conserved. But we'll see even that statement is not right. Because we will analyze that in the 3 states of experience. What is conserved is that which is changeless entity in all the changing things. That alone is real. And one has to be careful in terms of understanding is. So what is that which is changing from this to this and that which is changeless entity? That is called Viveka. Viveka is what is real and what's not real, or what is eternal and what is ephemeral. In the changing things, changeless entity has to be the eternal because it never changes, and only that doesn't change is Brahman alone. So Brahman is the substratum for the whole universe itself, because that's how we define the creation. Brahman itself as though appearing as many. I cannot see Brahman. the iron is, this is iron, that is a matter iron, this is atoms, electrons, or the matter and so on. That's only from point of your physics. But even that physics is not complete because you are excluding the consciousness, the investigator. How did he come into picture? Unless you include the subject also, I cannot analyze the subject. That is the problem. That's why you can never analyze the fundamental universe, that which includes both the subject-object duality, and that alone is real, and that is eternal, and that is what is Viveka. Viveka is to look at the changing things and recognize the changeless entity in the changing things. That is where the Viveka. Viveka is use a discriminative intellect of separating that which is changing and look again, cognitively at least, understand the changeless entity in the changing things. So every knowledge involves subject-object duality, and the objects keep changing, and the subject takes, I know this, I know this, I know this, all that is there. So if I want to know Vedanta, you said I have to go to a teacher, and what he is going to teach is a science of Vedanta, and that is again, he has to teach by words and ideas and all that. That's what we have been doing for the past few days in this series. Then again it's a thought. But thought is changing. How am I going to know that which is changeless entity in all the changing things? So therefore we need to understand a little bit now. Viveka involves a discriminative intellect of Nitya, Anitya Vastu, what is eternal and what is ephemeral. How am I going to know which is eternal, which cannot be seen, because eternal is only Brahman, you say, and how am I going to know? What kind of discriminative intellect I need in order to understand this? So to know anything, how am I going to know? This is what one has to be careful in terms of how am I going to know, including the self-realization, self-knowledge. How am I going to know? You said I go to teacher, he is going to teach me something, but I have to learn again Vedanta, I have to study Vedanta Upanishads and attend classes, all those again, it's again a knowledge of words and again concepts and so on. And you say that's not Brahman. Then what is it? How is that knowledge different from other knowledge? This we have to analyze carefully. So this, how knowledge takes place, and that is called the pramana. Pramana means of knowledge. And I see the world is real to me because I see it, therefore. I see it, therefore it is there. That's what we say. But how am I going to know that very seer which cannot be seen? How am I going to know the Vedanta, the self that cannot be seen, infinite that cannot be seen? I have to recognize cognitively from what I see to that what I don't see, from what I see. Careful, from what I see, that which I don't see, I have to see through what I see only. How? That is what is called a Vedanta Pramana. So we'll analyze now how Pramana operates, how Vedanta Pramana operates, and so on. For simple things, we start with a statement, say, how do I know anything? So this is a chair, how do I know? I can see. Seeing is a Pramana for knowing that there is a chair there. Because I am a seer and that's seen, but connection has to be established between the seer and the seen through a seeing process, and all the environment should be conducive, and that's what we analyze in the earliest talks when we say it is a completely pitch dark, I cannot see even though chair may be there, I am there but I cannot see, because Pramana cannot operate. For operation of the Pramana, I should see. This is simple, right? Now we go into more details of what I see and how I see and what do I really see. Because if you understand these things properly, even from the science point, we have to be very careful in terms of Vedanta also comes into picture how knowledge can take place. This we will start analyzing from tomorrow on. With this we stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha.